Tokyo Revengers centers around Takemichi Hanagaki, a 26-year-old man living in Japan who finds out that in a terrorist attack, his ex-girlfriend from 12 years ago, Hinata Tachibana, unfortunately passed away. Seeming rather indifferent to this news, he carries along with his day, living his life working a minimum wage job at a local DVD store. Later that day, Takemichi's at a train station, seemingly repeating yet another boring day in the life of Takemichi. But then, all of a sudden, he's pushed onto the train tracks. With the train just mere moments away from hitting him, in his final moments, he doesn't reminisce on family, he doesn't think of friends, he only thinks of one person, Hinata. When it seemed like Takemichi's life was over with, he wakes up as his 14-year-old self, initially confused as to what's going on. He later finds out that he possesses an ability to time travel exactly 12 years into the past. And with the discovery of this new ability, Takemichi makes it his life mission to save Hinata from the terrorist attack that ended up taking her life. There are many themes that surround Tokyo Revengers, but the one that stuck with me the most was the concept of innocence, or rather, the preservation of innocence. And I think this concept is best represented in our main character, Takemichi. See, Takemichi is a 26-year-old man who's broke, unkept, and then lives alone. On top of that, he doesn't have any friends, he doesn't stay with touch of family, and he's never been in a serious relationship. He doesn't have any meaningful connections in his life. Everything about Takemichi's life is objectively bad. This is reflected in the first episode by seeing his neighbors yelling at him, kids half his age disrespecting him, or most noticeably, his eyes. Takemichi's dull and seemingly lifeless eyes mirrors the state of his own life, which is, well, dull and lifeless. But when he's on the train track, seemingly facing the end of his life, it only makes sense in his final moments he didn't think of his family. It only makes sense that he didn't think of his friends, because the concept of friends and families is something that's foreign to Takemichi. He's all alone. In Takemichi's final moments, portraying a picture of his ex-girlfriend not only represents the last person he shared a meaningful connection with, but it also represents a time period which he didn't feel hopeless, a time period when his eyes were bright and full of life. When traveling back to this period, he began to appreciate everything that went right in his childhood, his friends, his school, Hinata. Even Takemichi says it, he was at his peak. And with this second shot at life, Takemichi pledges to save Hinata in the future, because if she's still around, he gets to still be his 14-year-old self. He still gets to have his innocence. And you can see the change in Takemichi's demeanor when he realizes he gets another chance to reclaim his innocence. Before the train incident, you can tell he's become lazy, pushover, complacent with his life. But after he realizes the future is now in his hands, he becomes motivated, brave, and eager to protect Hinata, along with the people he holds close. And as someone who grew up to become a person that everybody can walk over, Takemichi sheds that old personality and acts with purpose, essentially being reborn. And this need, this desperation to cling on to one's innocent past, serves as the crux to Takemichi's psychology moving forward, and the heart of the show's narrative. What is someone willing to do to reclaim their innocence? To what extent will someone go in order to get back to times when everything was good? Well, Takemichi is our answer. In this life, you're either running towards something or away from something. Most people in life are usually the former, working to become the person you've always envisioned yourself to be. Maybe you live a modest life and you just want to see yourself achieve more. Running towards something is a great motivator. You are uncomplacent and always strive to live the better life. However, there are those who are running away from something, away from a treacherous, unbearable lifestyle, a lifestyle that only knows pain and despair. These people have a drive that is unmatched. Takemichi is one of these people. Takemichi has been essentially put on a time limit. Takemichi has 12 years to prevent Hinata from dying, and if not, back to the hellish life he goes. This type of motivation lights a fire underneath him, and this is shown in some of the courageous things he does, like putting himself in the middle of violent gang wars, beating up his school bully, and even climbing the ranks of Tokyo's most notorious gang. And I think this is why Takemichi is regarded as such a spot-on representation of courage. It's never easy being brave, because being brave means taking a risk. No matter how strong you think you are, at the end of the day, taking a risk makes us scared deep down. Takemichi is such an accurate portrayal of this concept, as he always has tears in his eyes when he's doing these heroic acts, as if he's being forced to do so. But in this case, he is being forced. Forced by the need to save Hinata, forced by the need to retain the innocence he lost somewhere along the way, and most importantly, forced by the fear to run away from the hellish life that awaits him if he does not save her. And while maintaining moral purity is great and all, the audience can't relate like how they can relate to a character with something to actually lose. We all have things we want to protect. We all have things that mean the world to us, and sometimes we're put in a position where those things may be gone if you don't step up and be the hero. But saving the day is never an easy thing to do. In fact, sometimes it's the most hardest thing. But what pushes us to do the hard things is the internal need to protect the ones you love. And for Takemichi's case, Returning to his hellish life was so frightening to him, he found himself doing the most heroic things of all. What does it mean to be stripped of your innocence? We talked a lot about this concept in this video, but what does it actually mean? This question isn't exemplified any more than in episode 12 of Tokyo Revengers, as it fully captures the full scope of the issue. In this episode, after fighting the big game war to save Draken's life, Takemichi returns to the present to see if this had any effect on Hinata's life 12 years later. And this time, everything went according to plan. There's no record of the accident happening, and he was even able to save his best friend Akun from being caught up in the Tokyo Manji. All that there was left to do was find Hinata. Before knocking on her apartment door, merely feet away from seeing Hinata again, Takemichi begins to doubt himself, as he thinks that she probably won't even care, let alone remember him, and this makes him turn around and go home. This part you really start to feel for him. Even though he went through all this trouble to save Hinata, you know there's a very real chance that when they finally meet, she may not even care like he thinks. Up until now, these two meeting has been set up to be a grand event that would symbolize everything being okay in the end. But if you look at this from a realistic lens, Takemichi is trying to win back the love of somebody he hasn't seen since middle school. When you think about it like this, the reunion between the two becomes a lot less sentimental and a lot more desperate on Takemichi's end. And Takemichi is starting to let reality set in. With the possible chance of all this work he has done go for nothing, he retreats back to his old life. But on his way out of the apartment building, he bumps into a woman in the doorway. It's Hinata. But not only that, she actually recognizes him. After the two go back to the apartment together, and after Takemichi acts cartoonishly scared to talk to her, this is when his world changes. Later in the episode, while the two are on a walk, it's found that Hinata has been hung over a boy who dumped her on Christmas Eve. She loved this guy with all her heart and never understood why he broke up with her, and even though the breakup wasn't all that recent, she still loves him to this day. And that's when she asked Takemichi this. Yes, you heard it. Hinata has been in love with Takemichi this whole time. Everything Takemichi has worked for this whole show might actually pan out, and the life he wants to live with Hinata is really going to happen. In a nervous panic, Takemichi runs to the bathroom to collect himself, but just those few words spoke to him flipped his entire world upside down. He really has a chance to change his life for the better. He can really be with Hinata again. He can take back the innocence that was stripped away from him. Takemichi decides to take this opportunity of a lifetime and leave the bathroom to confess his burning love for her. He can't believe this is happening. He can't believe she actually feels the same way about him. It's like all the stars are aligning to create a perfect This moment genuinely broke me. After going through all the hardship Takemichi had to endure, he was finally able to save Hinata and start the beautiful life he ever so deserved. But one truck took that away. What was even worse about that entire situation? The person driving the truck was Akun. He couldn't even save his best friend from being wrapped up in the gang. This entire situation left Takemichi in utter disarray, and after realizing Hinata won't make it out of this car accident alive, in her final moments, he says the one thing he's been waiting to say to her his whole life. He hugged Hinata's body as tight as he possibly could, and said the words that I as a fan will never forget for the rest of my life. From now and beyond, I have always and will always love you. Hinata becomes so happy that these words were uttered from Takemichi, but she knows her time with him won't last very long. So in one final attempt to save the person that she loves life, she pushes him out the car. Seeing a person for who 12 years be lonely, depressed, disregarded, finally achieve the life he deserved, but then have it stripped away from him in an instant, brought genuine tears to my eyes. We all love rooting for the underdog, and we all hate to see when the underdog doesn't win in the end. It's sad when all this happens, but you realize sometimes this is just a part of the story. And after seeing Hinata die twice now, Takemichi doubles down on his pledge and plans to go back to the past to save her once again. Episode 12 of Tokyo Revengers remains as not only my favorite episode of the show, but one of my favorite episodes of anime period. The depth in which this episode explored the journey of someone who reached the happiness they've been hopelessly chasing their whole life for it to all be taken away is nothing short of brilliant. If there's one thing I'll take away from this episode, it's that even in your darkest hour, the drive to feel whole again will never leave you. And even if things may not fall into place now, you need to have hope somewhere along the way everything will align again. Because without that hope, who are we? Season 1 of Tokyo Revengers has quickly become one of my favorite new-gen anime, and a lot of its enjoyment comes from the concept of innocence portrayed in the show. We all have things from the past that we idolize, whether it's an ex, specific summer, or even your favorite video game from when you were younger. And these idols serve as a representation of your mind when you're enjoying life to its fullest. Even if you enjoy the life you live currently, nothing beats the nostalgic feeling you get when you're reminded of a past love. We as humans obsess over this feeling of nostalgia, and we tend to view these ornaments of the past in such high regard, and we glamorize and idolize everything that has to do with them. I want you guys to think back to a time when you felt you were the happiest. Now let me ask you this question. Was there anything bad about that time? You'll probably have a tough time naming any, even though there are most likely a few bad times you experienced in that period of your life. But our brain's tendency to filter out those bad moments and essentially create the ideal life in our brain brings a heavy bag of emotions. The quote at the beginning of this video explains how one loses their innocence. But Tokyo Revengers asked the question, what if you could get it all back? And to what lengths would you go in order to reclaim those better days? And as we get older and progress through life, we begin to create more ideal past, and thus the feeling of nostalgia grows ever so stronger. And as someone who just turned 20 a few months ago, I find myself looking inward a lot and asking the question, what if I can go back one more time and change how things are? This is why I feel so connected to this show's narrative. And this is why I feel so connected to Tokyo Revengers as a whole. This show is the embodiment of getting back the good times we love. And that to me is a phrase that speaks 1,000 words. Thank you guys for watching the video, and I know this isn't usually what I upload on this channel, but I thought it was a new way to shake it up and explore some of the anime I do love. So yeah, I appreciate the support. We're almost at 100 subscribers, so the DC community is going strong. So let me know what you guys want to see next in the comments. Drop a like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your friends. And hopefully I'll see you guys soon.